what makes home for me wherever I go, if I don't have anything, would be, I would say, the smell of food, the spices, my mom's spice blends, the frankincense smell, the coffee, and the music.
Having journeyed to the UK from Ethiopia via China, Helina Tesega notices the different ways multiculturalism can be interpreted. This is Writer's Mosaic, What We Leave We Carry, the series that tells the true life stories of migration to the UK.
From Ethiopia. I grew up in a town called Dawasa, a beautiful lake town. Actually, maybe the reason why I moved to Margate kind of coincides with my upbringing, childhood, but being by the water. We used to have, which we don't have now, this tree in my garden called guava tree, and climbing that and then going to see our friends who are right by the lake. Just, I don't know, it's just such a beautiful memory growing up. And the birds, listening to the birds in the morning, which actually when I was in Wales the other day, it really took me back to that experience of like how important it is to hear birds in the morning. In my early 20s, I left to China. It was part of my study, like international studies, which was a completely different experience, especially that time China was just starting. You know, it's just opened up to the world and start developing. And it, like culturally, actually, to be fair, Ethiopia and China have similarity in terms of like family being prioritized, food being part of the culture, people liking feeding you, all those things. But I remember particularly how very different it was in terms of energy-wise, you know, like just the noise. I met Scott, my husband, when I was living in Shanghai. And he moved there, after he met me, he moved there for work through his company. After living in there in Shanghai for 3 years, and then we moved to Hong Kong, and we experienced, you know, great things, and we were looking for what's the next thing to do. We considered a lot of places, but the one thing for me that stood up was London, like a London energy, like especially after living like a long time in Asia. I remember distinctly the feeling of arriving in Heathrow. Like it just feels so different from everywhere. And I think one of the reasons was its diversity. Obviously, that time I see these things from face value, right? Like I see diversity. Oh, I see like, you know, immigration officers, like someone would be on turban, someone wearing hijab, someone like diverse physically. And just being in Heathrow, how busy it is, everyone just walking, like everyone like looking from so many different culture. That used to fascinate me, especially obviously, like I come from Ethiopia, which is homogeneous, even though Ethiopia is multicultural, you know, with so many different ethnic groups, multi-religious country, multilingual, you know, we have more than 80 languages, all that kind of thing. I come from, in a sense, a multicultural country, even though, you know, physically, racially, it's homogeneous. And then China was also homogeneous in its own way, even though obviously there's lots of different dialects, different cuisine, different, like, you know, like every town you go is completely different. But again, it's the same country. But UK, like London particularly, not to say UK, used to fascinate me by its diversity. I usually relate it to multiculturalism, and that's how I thought UK was. I think of it differently now. But that time I remember, like, I used to love the buzz of London, and we thought it would be a good place to raise family. Scottish, British, I'm Ethiopian. So I thought if I had a child, I thought that would be the best place to raise for that sense. And that was the decision to move to the UK. I come from a multicultural country, right? Ethiopia, even though people would not see it that way. From the inside within, my dad is Muslim, my mom is Christian. Our neighbors, are some Protestants, some Orthodox, some Muslim, and any holiday. I never knew Muslim or Christian holidays difference because growing up, we celebrated everything. And I went to Catholic school as well. So it's very multicultural in that sense. And people kind of, because of that, people have understanding and tolerance of that, even though it feels homogeneous for outsiders. And also when I lived in China, even though, especially Shanghai, even though, it's in China, it was very multicultural in a way. The foreigners, it's a melting pot of culture because people from all over the place were there at that point I was in. A lot of people also wanted to study the language because they know it's the future. If we're having dinner, there would be Italian, there would be French, there would be, Ethiopian, there would be someone from Bulgaria or anyone, anywhere being sitting in the same table. And again, a similar way of growing up, there was that tolerance and curiosity of everyone's work, everyone's mannerism, for example. To become one, let's say mannerism, the way you express yourself, the way you talk, is different because of your culture. There's this blurred line, whatever way you are is accepted because it's not seen, there's one norm way and you're acting abnormally. And there was this energy of buzzing energy over dinner table. Someone would be talking loud over there. Someone would be saying, "Hey, Italy, we don't do this," or and that is for me pure multiculturalism. But even though not necessarily diverse in a Western expression of racially. So I took all these things for granted because London to me felt very diverse because of what you see visually. And also having the access, you can go to Ethiopian restaurant, you can go to Somali restaurant, you could do Vietnamese, you could, those things. So one of the reasons that excited me was that. But actually having lived I lived in London when I first moved here, and I lived in London Fields, which is supposed to be the most culturally, one of the most culturally diverse place. So I was quite surprised by what I thought diversity and multiculturalism were. I experienced it. I had to sit within myself and really, truly had to understand what I feel about it. Things didn't click for me, the energy or the experience I was having when I was living there. Because I realized even though visually it was diverse, but actually in a day-to-day life, I didn't feel, obviously because I'm Ethiopian, I lived in Asia, I can create that diverse circle or multicultural circle within my own friendship because of my experience. But outside that, I haven't seen that experience being a normal shared experience. For example, I was a new mom within the mom world. Let's say I'm in a playground. I haven't witnessed that. Everyone was in their own circle. Everyone would be sitting. The Ethiopians would be in their group. The Eastern European, all the different. I didn't see people actually interacting. Or you go to a cafe, especially London Fields. It was supposed to be very diverse, but oftentimes I would be the only person I see. Let's call it, rather than racial black and white, let's call it melanated person. I would be the only one. I go to a pub, and I could not give it as an excuse, maybe my taste is like that, that's why I do it. No, I live in London Fields. It's supposed to be, when I walk on the street, it's very diverse. When you see the kids in school, you see diversity, but then once, the school door shut or the home is closed, and I didn't experience or witness that. And I was really surprised because I was one of the one of the points where I moved here was not for that. And I was like, wow, I actually had much more multicultural times where I was leaving, where I thought it was homogeneous versus here. One thing I've noticed the first time I came here is there's a way to talk. There's a way to eat. There's a certain way to be. And if you're not that way, it's either you're strange or weird or rude. And that is the first thing I noticed, that I felt I had to continue being myself regardless of fearing those labels, because freedom is very important to me. How I talk, how I speak, how I think. And from my background, and I've seen so many people from different cultures, multiculturalism means tolerance of all that. Just because someone is louder doesn't mean rude. Someone interrupts doesn't mean rude. I used to love that freedom I had in multicultural table, where everyone was expressing, doing things without being afraid or judged for that, because it's accepted. Like, I think probably my not favorite word is the word that gets used a lot, strange or unusual. It was quite interesting to witness how, for a melting pot of cultures, there's this assumption of etiquette to be a certain way. And I feel like that comes from, the curse and the bliss. The bliss is like, you don't have to learn about other people because you're leading, right? But the curse is also makes you less curious, less knowledgeable, less explorative. There's so many things I love that I don't feel stifled about. I have to make conscious decision while this is happening and still hold, the nuances of different cultures. I still had to be myself. And also, I don't want to get into too much about the division culture. What is UK culture, though? It's very difficult to say that, because I guess I would say more on the surface level. I loved from the beginning, like the descriptions people have for each other. Hello, darling, you're right, thanks, all those things. I used to find them endearing. I love the music culture, how people love music. It's one of the most amazing place, right, for music. Regardless of where the music comes from, where it is, all that kind of thing. People generally have such love for music. There's some similarity with Ethiopian as well, like especially certain parts of Ethiopia, like the politeness, but the politeness sometimes even to a point you don't mean what you say. There's so many similarities, those things that I understand, and it's very normal for me. I understand it. Like, or even that politeness, sometimes it's like, I really wish someone tells me what they mean. I'm very wary of, for example, now all those things I used to, on the surface level, I used to see it as humbling and cute and stuff. Now I'm very wary, when I teach my son, even though, he's British, I'm very, careful of not using downplaying yourself, not too bad, using not too bad words too much, or could be worse, all those things, because those words have impact in your brain, right? It's culture, right? Being humble is part of the culture here. Like, really being a humble person, not hyping yourself, not saying that you're great, all those things. I use the word, for example, usually I say, genuinely, when I'm great, I say I'm great, and I get looks like, what happened? Like, it's a very surprise. Why you're not saying you're not too bad? I remember moving here the first time when I experienced inviting someone for food, how different it was. There was definitely a learning thing I had to do with how food was exchanged here. For me, food is like, if I invite, like, food is a love language. So like, if I like you or I want to get to know you, it's through food that that we get to know each other. Like either I'm inviting you or you inviting me to your home. And it's a very normal thing for a lot of cultures I know as well. Like, same when I was in Shanghai, my friends from Italy, like my Italian friends, my French friends, my Spanish friends, all these people had very similar understanding how we care and show love through food. And also, when people invite you, it's very, because you love people cooking for you, what you take is not about showing off or making someone like embarrassed by what you're taking if you're taking lots. It's more appreciation. So it's just a way of appreciating that person who cooked for you. But I remember when I first came here, I remember my husband saying to me, like, to take something for people. He's like, oh, no, you can't take more than like the wine and this and that. Just take the wine. And I'm like, why? Like, trust me, just do that, because it actually, I know you love to do that, but it makes actually the person uncomfortable. And I remember that he hit me first time. I was like, what? It actually makes like me wanting to do this, like, and then that's when you start to learn, like, oh, of course different cultures are different, but like there are things that you have to do out of your natural, or as a natural thing as a person to want to do, or a human being. Like there are things that you have to tone down because it's completely different culture or way of being. Although now it's changed, because I'm like, if I want to do something, I do it. But as a new person, there's so many things you get told. Also, not eating together per se. We share from a plate or you eat together. Also the same in China, you put so many ingredients and then you share meals. UK is a bit different. You get used to it. And also, the new generation has completely changed. So we're not talking about, the new generation is a very different thing. But traditionally, yeah, there were things that I felt it was a very different way of expression when it comes to food gatherings. Growing up, I don't remember any person that I know who would be stressed so much to invite people, like, because it's so normal. I guess it's maybe the lifestyle that created here, people maybe not having so much time to cook. Not a lot of people maybe grow up like always their mother inviting people. Not everyone, obviously. You have to grow up in that culture to feel so relaxed, to have so many people coming into your house to eat. If you're not used to that, and you do it once a year on Christmas, of course it gets stressful. I remember like when I gave birth, in my culture, like for the first 40 days, your mom feeds you, your neighbors feed you, your sister. It's a big deal for a mother. It's almost like a way of passage. Like you do this, she does that for her daughter. It's like a mess kind of thing. So people prepare for 9 months to look after you for 40 days, because it's the most important time to be nourished, to not have to think what to eat, to be with your baby bonding, and to heal your body, right? And also that's one of the reasons, in lots of parts of the world, people don't have that much postpartum depression, right? And that is a love language, which is food, someone feeding you so that you don't have to get up and do that. I wake up, I burn frankincense, which is like home. A smell is home for me. I do lots of things that is integrated that from my heritage, and also not necessarily just heritage per se, heritage like clinging on heritage, but way of life of my heritage that makes me grounded. I miss the slow way of life, the food culture, the spirituality, the energy of the land. Generally Africa, I would say that there's the sun, the energy of the land. You cannot feel it anywhere. But also, I loved the buzz of China. I loved the buzz, the busyness, just like the energy, the food, the smell, everything. So you miss everywhere you go. Like when I first moved here, it was so hard. I missed Hong Kong so much because that was my direct, not even Ethiopia, I haven't missed it. I missed Hong Kong a lot. Like when I moved to Hong Kong, I missed Shanghai a lot. So there's always somewhere you miss. But one thing I learned now is like, you have to integrate as much as possible. Like Eat Ethio, like the brand I started, is also one of my outlet of taking Ethiopia wherever I go. You know, creating a space, a discussion about my culture and creating the experience for other people through my eyes. So that is my really one thing that I will take forever wherever I go. You know, I love market scene. I love the herbs. You know, I forage all the time. I have huge connection to the land. Like, we're talking about culture. Culture is just like something that came later. The land and the sea is what it was before. When I'm here, I'm connected to those things. You know, when I'm in Ethiopia, I think about the herbs, the wild herbs that grow in here in spring that I'll miss out because I have more connection to them, right? So when I come here, I feel them. I was in Wales on the weekend, and just that land is insane. So generally, I get connected to those places that anchor me more than the culture or the people. What makes home for me wherever I go, if I don't have anything, would be, I would say, the smell of food, my mom's spice blends, the frankincense smell, the coffee, and the music. At home, like in the morning, every morning we burn frankincense, it just immediately. I have like ancient soul, but also I'm very futuristic. And also I like freedom. Also I'm Aquarius, so I'm not earth sign at all, I'm air. So there is no, if you tell me, oh, you're gonna move back home and live forever, I would not like that idea. Even though I love home and that's home, I like still exploring. So I'm very anchored, but I'm also free air. I want to have a base here in home, but also still be able to travel and explore the world.
Helina Tesega was talking to Jazz Grant.